The gameplay you are watching was captured on a capture card released in 2009. That looks better than videos captured on capture cards released even today. What in the heck? Learn more in today's video. In my YouTube career these days, I get to take a look at a lot of really cool hardware and technology in videos and in special projects. Like, for example, this is a almost $7,000 graphics card that doesn't have any video outputs or any fans. Seems really weird, really cool. Could do some cool stuff with it. But we're just gonna get rid of that and we're gonna look at something else, because who wants to see cool graphics cards? This right here, this is the first ever capture card that I owned for my channel, my first major investment in my YouTube career. And we're gonna be checking it out and seeing if it still holds up and why I chose it and why it was way better than I could have ever anticipated right after this.
There are not one, but two new Mod mics in town. Say what? The Mod Mic USB makes your dreams come true. Clean, consistent USB power, premium analog to digital conversion, high quality preamp, new unidirectional capsule from the Mod Mic Wireless, and an omnidirectional capsule with the dual microphone capability, a smooth, sweet digital mute switch, all in a USB connection. There's a first time for everything. USB? And for those unafraid of analog connections, the Mod Mic Uni houses the new unidirectional mic capsule with noise cancellation, RF shielding, and a godlike signal-to-noise ratio in a convenient 3.5mm analog form factor, and a new mute switch. Pick yours up today at antlionaudio.com or the link in the video description. You can mod my mic any day.
So yes, this is the AVerMedia C027, also called the Dark Crystal Pro HD Capture, and when I bought it back in April of 2010, almost 10 years ago, it was called the AVerMedia MTVHDDVRR. It was a ridiculous product name, and I've always remembered it ever since because of how ridiculous it is, and it seems to have gone through a couple name changes through that time, but this is still the exact card that I bought in April 2010 from Newegg. I still have a re-recording of my original unboxing of it. I don't have the original footage, unfortunately. The original channel I was running has since been deleted and I've been trying to recover it, but I don't think that's gonna happen and I missed out on a lot of videos. But this is a PCIe 1X capture card. It has HDMI inputs and analog breakout, and it's something that I picked up to capture my Xbox 360 and theoretically my PlayStation 3 for games like Halo 3, Halo Reach, things like that, when I really wanted to get into game capture. I had no idea what I was doing, but I couldn't afford the Hipog or the Blackmagic cards that everyone was using at the time, and I didn't really know how to use them, and this seemed like a more affordable and more reasonable option. I think I got it on sale, and I wanted something that would work. And despite the fact that I ran into many hiccups and issues with it, it ended up being a really great capture card that I didn't appreciate enough when I had it. Let's see what comes in the box. So you'll notice here on the box, there is a badge, it's a sticker that's been added after the fact, that says it works with Windows 10. And this is something I really like about AVerMedia as a company, is that they support their capture cards and their products for a ridiculously long time. In fact, I requested this from them, mentioning that it was my first capture card, and I wanted to review it again when I was getting some other products for review from them, and they were still able to send a brand new inbox one over. I don't see it for sale anywhere still in the US, but it was clearly sold long enough for the Windows 10 badge to be relevant. And it does look like it's still sold in other regions. You can see here it's the AVerTV HD DVR, and it has gameplay stuff, even though it's actually a more TV capture-y kind of capture card. And then on the side here, you get a view of what all it's compatible with, which is S-Video, Composite, Component, HDMI up to 1080i, and then stereo audio. Actually, this is not even the English version. There we go. The system requirements are actually fairly modest and fairly minimum. It does mention a couple times that it has real-time encoding for MPEG-2 and H.264, which leads me to believe, even though it doesn't have any heat sinks on it, that it might have an onboard encoder that is used in their software, or theoretically also accessible via Adobe Flash Media Encoder, which is kind of what it was designed for way back in the day. But I will have to verify this once we hook it up. And it's got a lot of other specs there, you know, going back to Windows XP 32-bit as supported, because lol. And it shows you what comes in the box. Let's go ahead and get this bad boy open. I am preserving the box. I'm going to do something cool with it later in this video, which hopefully I will include. So this is me unboxing pretty much the first thing I've ever unboxed on YouTube, which was this capture card. I used my little Flip Ultra 640 by 480, I think, recording video camera to record it. And we're returning to this same product now. A little bit of a sentimental moment, as my channel is rapidly approaching 200,000 subscribers, and at the time I was on not even my previous channel, but the channel before that. Alright, in the box. Man, this is exactly how I remember it. You get a little bubble wrap with the card itself. It's not even like a formal anti-static thing, and there's not even a HDMI protector in there. So this card did not have pass-through, which ended up being a big, serious hindrance to some of my workflow, which I may talk about in a little bit. But you have normal HDMI in, which I believe was like 1.2, 1.3. Again, this was 2010. And then, although it was made before 2010. And then an AV in, which is still an HDMI port, but it uses a breakout cable. Again, PCIe 1X connector. As far as the chips go, we've got a TV Master TM6202, a Texas Instruments TVP7002, and an ITE IT6604E, I believe, are the model numbers. In case that tells you more about it, people often request this information. It is clearly a very jam-packed PCB here. You can see so much happening. There's also a lot of information about what the different parts of it do. And there's a couple potential like expansion ports here. Lots going on. But very thin card, and it is low profile compatible. There's a low profile bracket in here in case you have a small form factor build, which is nice to see. So in the box, you also get the breakout cable. And this is part of the reason that this capture card seemed like the perfect fit for me, because it captured HD via HDMI, which would work for my Xbox 360 for Halo and things like that. But it also captured via HDMI to this giant breakout cable with a bunch of RCA jacks for composite, S-video, and component and analog audio. And they have them divided up here. So that's all of the component connectors. And this is the standard definition analog connections. And they do have separate audio connections entirely. And instead of using like a S-video like mini DIN breakout cable like the Elgato Game Capture HD or the StarTech card uses, it literally just uses HDMI. But this was theoretically going to let me capture from my PS3, because at the time the PS3 could not be captured via HDMI due to HDCP stuff. And so I was trying to use this, but I didn't have the splitter solutions for that at the time. Get a little bit of an advertisement manual, warranty extension, probably doesn't work anymore. Driver CD, again, this is going to be really old. I'm going to find online drivers, and an installation guide. And that's it. Box is way bigger than the capture card itself. So something I wanted to note that we are going to test here that really caught my eye that I didn't realize at the time of using this capture card is, so not only does it support 422 color resolution, which is really good. A lot of gaming capture cards these days still operate in 420. So I was using a third-party program, which we'll try to look at and I'll show in a little bit. But I was using a third-party program to use the uncompressed output from this card to capture to raw YUV, or uncompressed, losslessly compressed is the word I'm looking for, YUV streams with the Huff YUV codec, which was insanely high quality, way higher bitrate or bit depth than I ever needed in 2010 for some Halo Reach videos, and I didn't even know it. But it also mentions here that it can capture 320 by 240 resolution. And if you know anything about capture cards or trying to capture old game consoles, is actually getting 240p out of a composite or S-video input is near impossible. Pretty much all of the capture cards interpret it as 480i, and that is why, especially for streamers, all of these HDMI adapters for retro consoles are so appealing. So if this can do this, this makes it a pretty big recommendation for retro captures. So I'm gonna install this in my gaming PC, and we're gonna see if we can get it to work and see what it looks like. I am super stoked for this. This is insane. This is the first capture card I ever had. And I never knew at the time. Like, it wasn't my desire to like seek out to review capture cards or anything like that. I just wanted to use it. And now it's like a mainstay of my channel. So I'm super glad here as we approach our 10-year anniversary of using capture cards that I'm getting to review this insanely jam-packed capture card. It does concern me that there's no heat sinks on these. Maybe it's old enough, like it's not heat generating enough to matter.
So the software that the AVerMedia MTVHDDVRR or the C027 comes with is AVerMedia's Media Center 3D or HD or whatever. It's designed basically to be like Windows Media Center, but to capture, your TV. This is meant to use to, schedule recordings from your TV station or something like that. That's not what we're using it for, but you can set up. I was surprised to see, since I did use an alternative app, that in this software, which may not have been available at the time that I was actually using this capture card back in 2010, but it does have an AVI option, which does record to a lossless or uncompressed YUV stream in an AVI file, which is pretty cool. So I set it up to record and recorded a couple matches of Modern Warfare Remastered on the PS4 Pro. I thought this would be an interesting and appropriate game to choose, given that I would have been capturing Call of Duty 4 from the PS3 and Xbox 360 with this very capture card. Now, you can actually set your recording resolution independent of what your source is, and so I made the mistake the first time of setting 720p, thinking I was recording 720p 60, and the file turned out to be 720p 30, and I was real concerned. But it turned out my PS4 had actually set itself to 1080i, and so it was de-interlacing the 1080i into a 720p 30 file. Setting the PS4 back to 720p and recording in 720p, I was able to record a full 60 frames per second from this capture card, which is pretty cool. You're looking at some of the samples right now. This capture card from 2010, or 2009 is when it came out, looks better than any footage anyone was actually posting in 2009 or 2010. And looks substantially better than some of the cheaper capture cards that still come out to this day, due to the ability to have an uncompressed stream and the ability to record in 422, which is bonkers. And what really sucks is realizing this now after the fact, because what had happened was I got really frustrated with the lack of HDMI pass-through. I saw that as basically being unusable for my workflow because I didn't have any HDMI splitters that actually split the signal, and I didn't have any way to strip HDCP from the PS3, and so I was using all sorts of jank solutions with component splitters and trying to get stuff to work, and I just ran into so many problems that I ended up selling it and then buying the original Elgato Game Capture HD, which ended up producing much worse quality videos. The original Elgato HD and HD60 produced way lower quality videos than what you could actually capture with this capture card, which is bonkers. I ended up hooking it up to OBS as well, and sure enough, I can record lossless, uncompressed 720p 60 in OBS as well, which is pretty crazy. So for the next step, let's test out the analog and see if it can be a good retro gaming capture card. Well, I wish I had good news on the retro front. Despite the box touting 320 by 240 support, that's a nope. I even did some digging on some forums, and I found a chart that has HD Retrovision compatibility listed, and it does not detect 240p over component at all. It just says out of range, and then over composite, it detects it, but it's treating it as 480i, just like every other capture card. So while the file that you get out of AVerMedia software is 720 by 480, at 30 frames per second, and it is de-interlaced, and actually I would have believed that it was capturing it at a progressive scan based on this capture. I didn't see any noticeable de-interlacing artifacts. Pulling the same signal into OBS and setting it to 320 by 240, which does work, even at setting it to 5994, it is very clearly interlaced. So I could do some digging, but keep pushing, but that would just delay this video forever, and everything that I'm finding is saying that it doesn't work. So I was honestly hoping that this would turn out differently. For those of you wondering why I'm posting this video now, why I didn't wait until maybe the 10-year anniversary, which would have just been, I guess, 6 months from now, although it would have been a year from now at the time that I started this recording, it's because I ended up taking the capture card box to LTX, Linus Tech Tip's big meet and greet expo thing. I was invited to it and got to attend, and since that was, one of those kind of dream come true moments where I set out at one point to make a tech review channel, and now I'm here with all of the big tech review channels, kicking it up, I thought it would be pretty cool to take, you know, my first thing that I ever unboxed and get it signed by as many channels as possible. And so that's what I did. I wanted to go ahead and get it opened up before I went to LTX, which was back in July, so that I could take the box with me and get it signed and things like that. And so I'm super grateful that I was able to do that, and thanks to everybody who went ahead and signed it for me. But to answer the question, is the AVerMedia C027 a hidden gem of the best capture card ever? No, probably not. But it is pretty cool. I mean, I am I am still blown away by the fact that I was capturing, you know, lossless. Okay, so I didn't explain this, but I used a software called VHCapture, which you can still find some downloads for on third-party websites, but the official download is no longer available. This was one of those universal capture apps, kind of like AmaRec or Virtual Dub, and it was really, really reliable. You selected your capture device, you selected a codec, resolution, and captured, and it would do lossless. And I was capturing lossless 720p 60 Halo Reach, you know, captures back in 2010 and 2011, and had no idea how great that was. And my image quality was substantially better than everybody doing, you know, HD PVR footage over component, and anybody with the first gen of Elgatos. And even when I switched to my Elgato, it was actually a quality downgrade, and I did notice that at the time, but it was worth it to me for the HDMI pass-through, which at the time I had no workaround for. VHCapture then went pay to use, and I could it's no longer even accessible because the founder of, I believe it was Himlioff Labs, ended up turning into Split Media Company, which now makes XSplit. So the program that I was using for this was actually basically an ancestor of XSplit, which is pretty awesome if I say so myself. But I was, again, the quality that you could get back in 2009 for this capture card beats out so many capture cards that came after it, and even to this day. But it's still not a super amazing find or anything like that, simply due to the fact that the retro stuff, which was half of the appeal, isn't actually all that viable. It was still good for PS3 captures over component, but if you're looking to do anything lower than, say, 720p or 480p, you might have a hard time. I hope you enjoyed this kind of weird deep dive into a retro capture card. It's not technically retro, but a capture card from 2010, my first ever capture card I unboxed. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe for more tech education and more serious capture card reviews. I'm EposVox, here to make tech easier and more fun. Go check out my other Stream Guides episodes if you'd like to see more reviews of useful capture cards, and I'll see you next time.